We're 3 weeks into the second Trump presidency, 3 weeks, and tonight there are warnings that the U.S. is dangerously close to a constitutional crisis.
What a joke from Kaitlan Collins and CNN. I had to go to X and ask you, this had to be the poll question today. What do you make of all of this? CNN saying that we're dangerously close to a constitutional crisis. Well, the results, all the replies came flooding in. Our buddy, Terry Schilling, came back first with us. He said, we better not let this crisis go to waste then. Let's save America. A good old Rahm Emanuel quote there.
Emmanuel, I like it. Terry's very witty there. He's exactly right. Let's not let it go to waste. We got to save America, and we're going to come together in this crisis, and we're going to do things, damn it.
We are. Adrian Slade said that we've been digging out of an actual constitutional crisis for the last 3 weeks. He flipped it on its head there.
Yeah, it's almost like we've been in a constitutional crisis for the last century or so, and it's been building and building and building, including having a senile old man at the nominal head of this office. So I tend to agree with him.
And rounding it all out, Secret Fire says the crisis is that the bureaucracy has supplanted representative government. I think he's after Pat Gray's heart there.
Yeah, I mean, that is the crisis. That's it. That's the battle of the mandate, is versus that bureaucracy, that administrative state that's grown up, the permanent government. Absolutely.
Well, they don't like that we have so much winning, right? What you see on this show is probably the exact equal opposite of what they are reporting on CNN. We're saying, oh my gosh, Trump is doing this executive order and that executive order and cutting the Department of Education by $900 million. Oh, wow, these are great things. And CNN's like, I don't know, who gave you that authority?
Yeah, it is crazy because when they say constitutional government or a constitutional crisis, what they mean is the permanent bureaucracy is threatened. And right now, the wind is at our back. The ship is, speeding along across the water, slicing through the waves, and we're moving fast, and we're moving directionally towards something we call winning. We're not tired of winning yet. But because we're winning, the next step here is to get really clear on what the objectives and goals are as we win. It's not going to be enough to just, move in the right direction. Right now, we have lots of smart people who are very talented, who can actually move towards achieving determinate goals. And I think that's the next step for the administration and for a lot of the public to start wrapping their mind around these clear goals. And I believe that the administration will start laying a lot of this out as people actually bring in their staffs and come into power and over and over again make clear what the goal is. But, for instance, Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, smart guy, competent guy, unlike the last gentleman. And here he can say, this is the point of what the Department of Education does. This is what we shouldn't do, right? This is why it exists and why it exists properly. That question needs to be answered with specifics over and over again as we move forward. For instance, AI, right? Is AI good? Is AI bad? Is AI dangerous? How do we think about AI? You see J.D. Vance, very interesting speech. If you haven't seen it, it's only 15 minutes in France on artificial intelligence, laying out sort of a blueprint and some of the goals of how we should look at AI and what we want it to do for humanity in a good way and what we don't want it to do on the other side, right, moving forward. So it's not going to be enough just to say we're moving in the right direction, this is very good, momentum's on our side. We need to get clear on what exactly we're trying to achieve in all of these cases, whether it comes to Department of Education. Do you want to get rid of it? Okay, great, right? Let's make that clear, make clear what the goal is. The great thing, I'm not complaining, by the way, the great thing about what's happening is I think the objectives have never been clearer to many of the people coming into the administration. I think we do have clear goals, but they need to be communicated increasingly, and I believe will be, to the American public. And some of these questions are really open-ended, like, what should an American way of life that's healthy look like in the 21st century? We have things like artificial intelligence. We have, new problems coming up that we have to deal with. So let's think about how, in a realistic way, what the goal is for us, with or without government, right? Hopefully without government on our back, but how we want to live. Those questions are all resurfacing, and I just encourage everybody to rethink and get clear on what those specific goals are, because in many cases it's not clear, and you can't go backwards, to the 1950s or something. Even if you'd like to, you'd have to think about what the future looks like. And if we're remaking the government, if this is the second American Revolution, revolution, we need to get clear on what we want that future government to be.
Yeah, and I think it's very easy right now with Doge leading the way to see all of the financial gains that have been made. And we see White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, she said, we're going to treat this federal government as a business, right? We're going to watch money in and money out. Well, right now, we love all the wins that are the financial wins. Right. And that's a very, very, very important step to figure out where all of our taxpayer money is going. And it's also a way to kind of hook the American people in and say, okay, now follow along with the rest of us. But what we see is the appointments, the confirmation hearings for a Tulsi Gabbard, an RFK Jr., and a Kash Patel are still coming up this week. The implications that those three people would have getting into the positions that they are up for and nominated for will be dramatic. And this is why these three in particular have taken so long, but this is why Maha has been such a huge deal, right? Can we actually go through and make America healthy? Can we take all the dyes, all the crap, all the seed oils out of your food? And when you go to the grocery store, you can just buy something off the shelf that's not going to give you cancer in 10 years, right? These are the things that we're, okay, now we can actually flip the page, right? I still want all of the financial benefits from Doge. I still want all of those dopamine hits that gives me every single day. But then what happens if Tulsi Gabbard gets in at DNI? What happens if Kash Patel becomes the FBI director? These questions, these answers get so much bigger.
Yeah, it's about reshaping government and what it's trying to do. And I think you're right. I mean, Doge is like the key to it all, because you first have to look at concretely, where does the money go and what is your money being spent on? And once you start looking at that with, being shocked and appalled and all the stages of grief and anger and everything else, then you start to say, okay, well, what should we be doing? Right? Let's get rid of all this garbage. Let's, let Elon delete the files and let Congress come in, hopefully, and delete the files and pass a balanced budget, God forbid. But then you have to say, what should these organizations be doing? Because remember, they've been used for really evil purposes and ideological purposes on the other side for a long time. So they've been warped. They've been bent. Their shape has been bent for purposes that need to be reimagined and reestablished.
I don't know what Elon's Twitter handle is going to be tonight, but you know what? It's always a fun game. Whatever he's going to change his bio to, Elon and the boys, they're keeping it entertaining.
The most entertaining outcome is the most likely. Seems to be true so far.
At this point, that is absolutely true.